Hello, how are you? You have 30 questions to answer from 6 conversations for level B2. Please have a pen and paper and prepare yourself. For every question you will get 3.3 marks, so please count your mark from 100.
Are celebrities bad for you? Celebrities are everywhere nowadays, on TV, in magazines, online. Is this preoccupation with famous people harmless fun, or is it bad for us? How many people are truly obsessed with modern media idols? And on the other side of the coin, can fame be harmful to the celebrities? Studies suggest that the vast majority of teenagers do not really worship celebrities. Researchers have identified 3 kinds of fans. About 15% of young people have an entertainment social interest. They love chatting about their favorite celebrities with friends, and this does not appear to do any harm. Another 5% feel that they have an intense personal relationship with a celebrity. Sometimes they see them as their soulmate and find that they are often thinking about them even when they don't want to. These people are more at risk from depression and anxiety. If girls in this group idolize a female star with a body they consider to be perfect, they are more likely to be unhappy with their own bodies. That leaves 2% of young people with a borderline pathological interest. They might say, for example, they would spend several £1,000s on a paper plate the celebrity had used, or that they would do something illegal if the celebrity asked them to. These people are in most danger of being seriously disturbed. What about the celebrities themselves? A study in the USA tried to measure narcissism or extreme self-centeredness, when feelings of worthlessness and invisibility are compensated for by turning into the opposite, excessive showing off. Researchers looked at 200 celebrities, 200 young adults with masters in business administration, a group known for being narcissistic, and a nationally representative sample using the same questionnaire. As was expected, the celebrities were significantly more narcissistic than the MBAs, and both groups were a lot more narcissistic than the general population. 4 kinds of celebrity were included in the sample. The most narcissistic were the ones who had become famous through reality TV shows. They scored highest on vanity and willingness to exploit other people. Next came comedians, who scored highest on exhibitionism and feelings of superiority. Then came actors, and the least narcissistic were musicians. One interesting result was that there was no connection between narcissism and the length of time the celebrity had been famous. This means that becoming famous probably did not make the celebrities narcissistic. They already were beforehand. So what can we learn from this? People who are very successful or famous tend to be narcissists and are liable to be ruthless, self-seeking workaholics. As we can see from celebrity magazines, they are also often desperate and lonely. They make disastrous role models. Are zoos a good thing? Zoos are hugely popular attractions for adults and children alike. But are they actually a good thing? Critics of zoos would argue that animals often suffer physically and mentally by being enclosed. Even the best artificial environments can't come close to matching the space, diversity, and freedom that animals have in their natural habitats. This deprivation causes many zoo animals to become stressed or mentally ill. Capturing animals in the wild also causes much suffering by splitting up families. Some zoos make animals behave unnaturally. For example, marine parks often force dolphins and whales to perform tricks. These mammals may die decades earlier than their wild relatives, and some even try to commit suicide. On the other hand, By bringing people and animals together, zoos have the potential to educate the public about conservation issues and inspire people to protect animals and their habitats. Some zoos provide a safe environment for animals which have been mistreated in circuses or pets which have been abandoned. Zoos also carry out important research into subjects like animal behavior and how to treat illnesses. One of the most important modern functions of zoos is supporting international breeding programs, particularly for endangered species. In the wild, some of the rarest species have difficulty in finding mates and breeding, and they might also be threatened by poachers, loss of their habitat, and predators. A good zoo will enable these species to live and breed in a secure environment. In addition, as numbers of some wild species drop, there is an increased danger of populations becoming too genetically similar. Breeding programs provide a safeguard. Zoo-bred animals can be released into the wild to increase genetic diversity. However, opponents of zoos say that the vast majority of captive breeding programs do not release animals back into the wild. Surplus animals are sold not only to other zoos, but also to circuses or hunting ranches in the US or South Africa, where some people are willing to pay a lot of money for the chance to kill an animal in a fenced enclosure. Often, these animals are familiar with humans and have very little chance of escaping. So, are zoos good for animals or not? Perhaps it all depends on how well individual zoos are managed, and the benefits of zoos can surely outweigh their harmful effects. However, it is understandable that many people believe imprisoning animals for any reason is simply wrong.
Choosing a musical instrument. Many people would like to learn how to play a musical instrument, but they are put off by one big problem: what to play. Here are a few questions to help you decide. What kind of music do you like? Many instruments are versatile, but some are more suited to certain types of music. Although there is some classical repertoire for the saxophone, for example, people associate it more with jazz, and it is not a permanent feature of many orchestras. Some instruments may lend themselves better than others to the music you like, so consider this before you start. Do you want to play with other people? Think about your long-term future as a musician. If you want to play with other people, what sort of instrument would be most practical? The initial attraction of playing a dazzling solo instrument like trumpet, violin, flute, or lead guitar might fade when you realize how many other people are competing with you to get the main part with the same instrument. If you want to play rock music, there will always be a demand for bass players or drummers. And if you fancy being part of an orchestra, the bassoon is a great bet to make sure you are always needed. Where are you going to practice? Many people live in flats, and practicing the drums, for example, will drive your neighbors crazy. Think about where and when you are going to practice, as well as the patience of the people you live with or near. Electric versions of instruments like the piano, drums, guitar, and even violin give you the option of playing into the night using headphones, while your housemates sleep in peace. Alternatively, you may need to consider going to a school or a community center to practice. How much money can you spend? This is quite a big factor. A lot of instruments can be purchased in different price ranges, for example, guitars. But this doesn't alter the fact that many, such as the piano, are always pretty expensive. If you can't afford your chosen instrument, will you be able to borrow someone else's or hire one? Are there any physical limitations? If you're small and don't like lifting heavy objects, you won't want to carry around a double bass. Apart from that, use your common sense and don't let your perceived physical shortcomings put you off. Who says small, slim people can't play the tuba? It's true that some wind instruments require a lot of lung power, but with the right coaching, everyone can develop the right technique. Still not sure? Talk to people you know who already play instruments. They might even let you try theirs. It's also a good idea to find an experienced music teacher, preferably one who plays a few different instruments, who can give you some advice and push you in the right direction. If you find an instrument you love and that suits your needs, you'll find the time spent choosing was well worth it. Good luck with making your choice. FOMO posted 2 hours ago by Mr. Braddock, sixth form teacher. Everybody knows how important it is for students to get a good night's sleep every night. You aren't able to do your best and keep up with all of your responsibilities unless you sleep well. I'm sure you already know that you should go to bed at a reasonable hour. Most experts agree that the optimum number of hours is 8, and this has been accepted as common sense for as long as I can remember. However, I was young once, and I know that most of you get much less sleep than that, and in some cases it will be affecting your schoolwork. I read an interesting article in a teacher's magazine recently. They did a study of 848 students in Wales. Worryingly, the results showed that teenagers are facing a new problem. They may go to bed and get up at appropriate times, but a growing number are waking up in the middle of the night. Not to use the bathroom or have a snack, but because of a new phenomenon, FOMO, fear of missing out. According to the article, school children are suffering because of a growing trend to wake up during the night to check social media. Afraid of missing a comment or opportunity to take part in a chat, teenagers are waking at all times of the night, going online and getting involved. All this when they should be sound asleep. Experts are worried about this growing trend, and the report reveals some worrying statistics that I'd like to share with you. 23% of 12 to 15-year-olds wake up nearly every night to use social media. Another 15% wake up at night once a week for the same reason. 1 in 3 students are constantly tired and unable to function to their full capacity. Students who use social media during the night are more likely to suffer from depression and anxiety. So, I'd like to ask you to be responsible when it comes to social media. Be brave. Switch off your devices at night. The world won't end, and your social media will be waiting to greet you in the morning. I give you my word that you won't have missed anything important. This text is for you to practice your reading skills. Some of the information it contains may not be up to date.
Leaving home going away to university is always a tricky time, both for the students who are leaving home and their parents who are staying behind. We got advice on how to cope from a student daughter and her dad. A Daughter's Advice to Parents by Carrie Price. My parents drove me to uni at the beginning of the first term. That was great, but then they hung around, so it was hard to chat to the people in the rooms near mine. It's best if you leave us to unpack ourselves. Don't ask us to come home during term time. There's a lot going on at weekends, there just isn't time. Get another interest or a pet if you feel lonely without us. Don't make us feel guilty about leaving home. It is quite interesting to hear about your experiences at uni, but remember that it was a long time ago, so don't go on about it so much. Things have changed a lot. Now we have a lot more debt, and it'll be harder to find a job in the future. Please don't check up on us or our friends on Facebook. I know it's a public site, but we have the right to some privacy. Don't change anything in our bedrooms. We have only half left home. We'll be back in the holidays, so please don't touch anything. We'd still like to come on family holidays with you. Don't forget to include us just because we're not there all the time. A Father's Advice to Students by Stuart Price. Don't complain so much about how much work you have to do. We work a lot too. You're an adult now, get used to it. Put up with the fact that we refused to get a dog while you were at home, then suddenly bought one as soon as you moved out. We miss you. Just because you're at university studying very complex subjects, it doesn't mean that you're more intelligent than everybody else. Don't treat your family as if they were stupid, we're really not. Let us come and visit you now and again. We promise to try not to embarrass you in front of your friends. We just want to see you for a short time and take you out for a meal. Don't waste so much time on Facebook. You need time for all that work you have to do, remember? We might make a few changes to your room, so deal with it. It's great to have a guest room at last, but we won't change things too much, promise. Don't forget to call home from time to time, and don't get annoyed if we phone you. It's not pestering. If we didn't call, you wouldn't know that we care. Study problems. Help is here. Ask eTutor. Hi, I'm eTutor or Emma. I'm here to help with any study-related problems, whether big or small. Post a message on the forum below.
Meg, what should I say to my sister? Hi, eTutor. Unfortunately, I share a bedroom and a desk with my elder sister. She continually distracts me because she's noisy and disorganized. I think she's disrespectful. I've got exams in a fortnight, and I desperately need to revise. I can't concentrate when she's studying too, and the desk is always overflowing with stuff, so I can't find anything. If I try to have a dialogue with my sister, she gets annoyed. Can you help?
eTutor, what should I say to my sister? Hi, Meg. That's a common complaint between siblings. Why don't you discuss a rota system so that you use the desk at different times? Or maybe you could study at the local library, cultural center, or community center a few days a week. Make sure you've got storage space for everything on your desk, folders and containers for your paper and stationery. If everything has its own place, it will be easier to keep orderly. It might even be enjoyable to do this together. If it's easier to write instead of talking face to face, try messaging her and explain how awful you feel.
Rudy against the clock, my problem is time, or lack of it. Next month I've got 12 exams in 3 weeks. How can I possibly study for all of them? It's complicated. I think it's impossible.
eTutor against the clock. Hi, Rudy. It isn't impossible, but you do have to get started now. Make a study plan and highlight periods of study time for each subject. Make a detailed plan for this week and then do the same for the weeks ahead. It's better to study for an hour or so a day than just once a week, all day. Your brain needs time to process information.
Haley Disaster, my problem is silly and a bit embarrassing. I just find it hard to study. I always stop and start and I keep getting the impression that I'm learning the wrong things. I'm a disaster. I don't think you can really help me.
E-tutory, Disaster Haley, your problem isn't silly at all. It's very real, and lots of people experience the same thing as you. Sometimes things improve if they join a study group. Set up a group and meet a couple of days a week after school to study together. Take turns to give presentations and teach other what you know. It's called peer teaching and is an effective and efficient practice for lots of students.